Yeah, no, people are listening right now. I started recording, so all that part you said about the rash you have, they're gonna get every part of it. Thank you guys for joining us on our first ever episode of the third Down Punt Podcast. I'm joined here with my co-hosts Adam and Drew, longtime football fans. Why don't you guys say hi to the viewers?
Hi guys.
Hello everybody. Nice to be here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for having us, Vasso.
Thanks for having yourselves. We're excited to kick our first ever podcast off. We got some great stuff on this episode. We're going to talk about, are we keeping it strictly Dynasty related, or is it also redraft?
Yeah, I feel like mainly Dynasty is where we shine.
It's just fantasy football in general.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of the strategies are the same.
Yeah, you could take from this if you're a Dynasty league or you're in a redraft league. We're going to talk about the NFC North today, some of the players we like, some of the players we don't like on each of their respective teams. We have a sell low, buy high segment. Who are you going to buy high at their current price? Who are you going to sell at their lowest? We have some rapid fire questions, and we are excited to get into this episode, guys. Drew, do you want to start with the NFC North?
Yeah, so I figured we start with the hometown Detroit Lions.
We are from Detroit, by the way.
Absolutely.
We are, yes. Metro
love
Detroit.
Since I'm sure everybody across this great nation of ours is listening to us right now.
So let's just throw a player out there. Matthew Stafford. Last year in 8 games, he was on pace he was 4th in points per game last year in fantasy. Obviously, only played the 8 games. He was on pace over 5,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions.
I mean, it's going to sound biased since we're all from Detroit, but I think we're all on the Matt Stafford undervalued bandwagon.
Without a doubt,
right
yeah. If he was not in Detroit, like if he played in Dallas, he'd be seen as a top 5 quarterback.
Not even fantasy related. He was number 2 in yards per attempt of any quarterback in the NFL last year.
It was his career high, actually. It was his first time. I think like his career high before last year was 7.7. He was 8.6 yards per attempt last year.
Which is why the player that I want to call out, since we're talking about the Lions in the NFC North here, is Marvin Jones. I think he's the player that you want to be buying in Dynasty because he's going to offer great upside for super cheap. I see him. You could easily probably get him for a second in most leagues. Yeah. He's going to be offering 10 touchdown, 1,000-yard season
and
upside
him and Kenny
easily.
G are really a 1A, 1B. There's not really a true wide receiver.
Kenny G, yeah, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Marvin Jones, though, he's always hurt.
I mean,
He's pretty good, though, when he plays.
Let's see. Hang on. How many games did he play last season?
12, I think, 11.
Was it only 12 or 11? He is injury-prone. He is older, but, I mean, you're getting what you're getting. When you're starting him, he's going to be – or when you have him, he's going to be starting player for you. I've got his stats right here in front of me. He got – under 9 points twice while he was healthy the entire season
And
long.
you could probably get him for a late third in Dynasty.
And then he had some games where he had 40-point
think.
upsides, 25 game winning.
If I had Marvin Jones, especially if I was a rebuilding team and somebody offered me a third, I feel like I wouldn't be able to get better than that.
The real player that I think is interesting on the Lions from a Dynasty perspective is Kerryon Johnson. Because he's 22 still, and he's only got 1 more year under his contract, I believe. So he could be a free agent at 23 years old.
For me, I got to say Kenny G's a sell. I like the player a lot. I absolutely love his upside, but
that is a pretty good hot take.
I can't deal with those injuries. I mean, how many games is he going to play for me?
He is always banged up, but he does have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He's only in his 4th year, too. I feel like he's been around for a lot longer than only 3 years.
He's old for his
he is. So he's like a 24-year-old rookie, but super great route runner, super good hands.
Yeah. Where do you guys see him going in free agency? I don't see him.
I think Galladay is staying in Detroit.
I think he's in Detroit.
He's. Oh yeah, he's. I think he'll definitely stay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think he's the only receiver that's under contract. But that's.
All right, I want to talk about the Minnesota Vikings and my favorite player that we're going to talk about in this segment. Breaking down the NFC North, and that's Adam Thielen. Drew and I were actually going back and forth a little bit about this before we went live. He's rated insanely low in some Dynasty ADPs. I mean, you're looking at in the 30s, 35. This one that I'm looking at right now has him ranked at 35 of Dynasty wide receivers. You know he's shooing for 120-plus targets.
Yeah.
He was already a target hog on that team. He's Kirk Cousins' favorite target, and now Stephon Diggs, who demanded 100 targets every season, is no longer on that team. Where are those targets going to go? Some to Jefferson, obviously. Drew, I think you want to talk about Irv Smith on this team a little bit. I definitely think he's a point, but I see Thielen as a top 12 wide receiver almost as a lock if he can stay healthy, and you're buying him at top 25 wide receiver price. It's
Maybe.
steal.
I feel like people look at the late breakout age for Adam Thielen. He didn't break out till he was 27. Obviously, like the small school guy, so that kind of makes sense.
But
The
multiple
age, he's
years of
almost 30.
producing in the NFL,
Yeah, you gotta get
throw
past that
out
for
the window
Thielen.
of breakout age. It's about
completely
breakout
agree.
age when you're trying to find the prospect. When you're trying to find who's going to be good in the NFL, breakout age is important. Once somebody's already good in the NFL, breakout age isn't important.
I completely agree. I meant breaking out in the NFL.
Oh, okay. I
But
get
I
what you
totally
mean.
see your point. My thing with Adam Thielen is I love the player, great route runner, super strong hands, and he does it without being super athletic, which I think is really cool. But I think Stephon Diggs did a lot more to help him than people realize. He was obviously the field stretcher in the team, which, I mean, Stephon Diggs can do more than that. But he was the deep guy for the Vikings. They replaced him with Justin Jefferson, who does a lot of the same things as Thielen. He was a slot. I think like all but 20 of his snaps in college last year were from the slot.
And Thielen actually excelled in the slot. So
Yeah, so they're both slot guys. So I don't know how much Justin Jefferson's going to bring off of Thielen. Tajay Sharp's their other outside guy. I don't think.
How are
he's
you
gonna do
guys
much.
feeling on Kirk Cousins?
I like Kirk. He's his last 5 years. I have it here. He went QB 8, QB 5, QB 6. Then QB 12 and 15. So he had two more somewhat down years in Minnesota. But last year was his first ever season having less than 4,000 yards as a full-time starter.
And I think you always need a transition year,
It-
sort of switching offenses. It sort of takes a minute, all but for the elite, to just instantly pick up on a new team. And
Yeah.
it depends what you're looking for out of Kirk Cousins. You know, I'm biggest Kirk Cousins fan, Michigan State, complete hero. But if you're expecting top 10 quarterback, you're going to be let down. He might give you some of those weeks,
Yeah.
but he's the guy that you're plugging in if you're playing in super flex leagues. He's the guy that you're confidently plugging in as your QB2,
Without a
who's
doubt.
going to go get you 15, 16 points. Have
Yeah.
you some weeks where he's going to get you 25 points. But if you're drafting him, expecting him for top 10 upside, you're probably going to be let down. I would say he's right in that quarterback 12 to
Yeah.
18
Kirk to
range.
me is like guaranteed top 15 quarterback.
how do you
every
guys
year.
feel about Kyle Rudolph here? I think he's still above Irv Smith on the
I
depth chart.
think technically, but Irv Smith's a good blocker. I see Irv Smith stepping up as the second target. He's a great route runner, has really good hands. He's not super big for a tight end. He's like 6'2", 6'3", 235,
He's smooth.
240.
He's a smooth player.
He's a super smooth athlete. He's a guy that you look at and you say he doesn't wow you with his bursts, but he does everything so smoothly that you kind of like don't appreciate how athletic and how good he is.
Kyle Rudolph is an interesting name that you bring up because I actually was thinking about him, but not related to this, so I'm glad you jogged my memory. I'm pretty sure he's signed through 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So that's 2 more years, and I'm pretty sure is he only 30 years old?
He might be. He hasn't had a
I
super
should have been more
productive
prepared
season in quite a while.
and look this up in the meantime, but
He might only be 30.
he's 30
he is
years old.
30
He's
years
30
old.
years old. So that's tight end prime right there.
For somebody
Int-
who's not that good. is that-
interesting
that a
interesting to
good
bring
thing?
up. I mean, he's not bad. I'm not saying he's great. He just brought him up, and I think he's going to cut more into Irv Smith than you'd think he would.
I could definitely see that. I think Irv Smith is going to.
All right, everybody
yeah.
except for Green Bay's least favorite team in the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers. I suppose I could kick it off. I think the most interesting player to talk about on this team is Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion. He is right
Yeah.
at the point where, in some people's eyes, he's already fallen off, but he still has that kind of cachet. He's still got the mechanics. He's still got the talent. I personally am out on Aaron Rodgers. I think he's sailed. I think he's passed. I'd rather have a guy easily, even in redraft, Matthew Stafford. I'm taking Matthew Stafford over Aaron Rodgers, certainly in Dynasty. And when you give the fact that our good friend Max was talking about it, the Packers draft no talent to help him.
Yeah.
And he's got nothing around him still. Devontae Adams, obviously top probably 5 wide receiver in the NFL, but outside of that, they've got nothing around
Alan
him.
Lazard is their wide receiver too.
It's
Devin Funchess.
Let
I'm
me read
out
you
on
these
Aaron
stats.
Rodgers.
Last 2 years, 51 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Yeah, I was
Touchdown
going
to interception ratio is cute. Do you watch him play? The reason why he does that is he throws the ball away more than any quarterback in the NFL.
That's
he
not a bad
absolutely
play
does.
in real life, but it is fantasy. But I kind of agree with you. And when I was doing my notes, I was thinking about Aaron Rodgers' bad year that I want to talk about. He still finished as QB9 last year. So in his worst year possibly his worst year in his career when he stayed healthy. He was still a top 9 QB. So the decline, I think, is definitely real, especially with, like you said, he doesn't really push the ball downfield anymore. But I think a lot of that is because of weapons. Like, he doesn't have a Jordy Nelson anymore. He doesn't have a Randall Cobb anymore. Well, he's not going to have. This is what he's got. This is his twilight of his career. What's he going to get? Even if they draft a first-round receiver next year, is that going to be in time to help him? What does a receiver usually take 1 to 2 years to break out?
That's right.
Aaron
Rodgers is 36 right
Aaron
now.
Rodgers is going to be 39 then.
They did just draft Jordan Love.
It's it. This is it.
Oh, the writing's on the wall. Aaron Rodgers has only got
next year. I think next year might be his last year in Green Bay.
And I think when they drafted, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
AJ
Dillon. And Jordan Love, this is their replacement plan because they have Aaron Jones. I think they're going to be having him on the out, Aaron Rodgers on the out. They're going to try to be building around Jordan Love in the future. And
anybody you'd sell if you were holding on the Green Bay team?
I already said Aaron Rodgers, but I'm not sure what you can get for him.
I would sell Aaron Jones.
I would sell Aaron Jones, too.
I feel like them drafting AJ Dillon is kind of writing on the wall that they don't really want to, because Aaron Jones is in contract year too.
Look, I'll take the contrary to that. I'll buy Aaron Jones because here's why: running back shelf life is so short term, and Aaron Jones has a good next year outlook. Running back, you can't look much further than 2 years out. Seriously, it's really tough. Look at running backs that fall off like that: Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, LaShawn McCoy. Even though he's a little bit older, he fell off. These are just running backs that have been on my team, so that's the ones that come to my mind. Devontae Freeman. These, you can't look much further than 2-3 years. So that's why I'm buying Aaron Jones, because I think a lot of people are selling because of that.
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot of young running back talent though coming into the league and in the league right now. So it's hard for me to buy Aaron Jones for only 1 or 2 years, especially if I'm not a competing team, even though he's so young. Because there's a team would rather have a good running back in a rookie contract rather than a good running back.
I think the league has to do something about rookie running back contracts.
Yeah, the rookie running back contracts are so destroyed.
I don't know that they will. They just signed the new CBA.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So they have a few years before they can. But
like a 3-year deal instead of a 4-year deal.
It basically makes sense to draft a new one every 4 years.
It kind of just screws them because they're so pro-ready. They come in, hit the ground running,
and they're getting drafted, and the best ones are getting drafted not even in the first, so they're not even making the same money that
they don't get the fifth-year option.
A topic for a different day. It's crazy. Derrick Henry's paid less now than Chris Johnson was back in 2011. Chris Johnson was, but so is Derrick Henry. They are both pretty much equally as valuable to their teams.
Yeah, before we move in Chicago,
and 10 years later, look at QB salaries 10 years ago compared to what Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and Carson Wentz.
Let me throw 2 names out there. We talked about Allen Lazard before we started filming at him. 67% catch rate on 52 targets. The league average is 64%. And Allen Lazard's somebody who all he does is contested catches. He's not super athletic. Great hands. We saw him destroy Justin Coleman. Would you buy Allen Lazard as like a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4?
Look, I think that I would. When Allen Lazard, it was a very interesting player. He was actually pretty good in college.
Yeah,
he had good production. He's the type of player who seems to overperform what you expect him to when you're watching him play.
He's not super athletic.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. I don't know exactly what it is, but it seems like he does. I don't know. It depends. Again, it's all based on expectation.
Yeah.
I think in redraft, he's a good buy if you're targeting him as maybe your bye week fill-in as your wide receiver 4 or something, especially if you have Devontae Adams as a great backup, great handcuff. In Dynasty, I don't know. I wouldn't invest too much in him. Maybe
somebody who's probably on waivers in a lot of Dynasty leagues, though, especially in shallower benches. Yeah. Like 25-man rosters or
redraft
less.
League, Lazard's probably...
He's probably going undrafted, without a doubt. He's probably not even...
Imagine having him as your wide receiver 6 or something and have Devontae Adams going down.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody who's probably going to get literally 12, 15 targets because who else do they have?
One more name, speaking of that, what about Jay Sternberger?
I'm not interested.
Look, Jay Sternberger in our Dynasty League, I tried to draft at 412, but he was drafted at
I drafted him at 3.6.
Yeah, or something. And I got made fun of, and I ended up drafting Dawson Knox, Dawson Knox is now rostered in that league, and Jay Sternberger is not. So
Dawson Knox
laugh
is
at
good,
me
but
for that.
Jay Sternberger is very interesting because he was an H-back in college.
Look, I don't know too much about him. I know he's really athletic. I know he's a great talent. So
that is just kind of
Worth a
an
flyer.
under the radar name, I feel like. For,
and
for
tight
Green
ends,
Bay.
everybody knows. Takes
He made
couple years to break out.
some training camp plays too, which I'm a big fan of.
Last
we all
team,
love the training
I
camp
think
plays.
the worst team anybody wants to talk about in
For
the NFC
fantasy-wise,
North
yeah.
is the Bears. I'll get the elephant out of the room and say Allen Robinson is the buy. I think he's
Without a doubt.
the problem with Allen Robinson at this point is now he's gaining traction. Now I think more people are realizing how he's undervalued and his value's going up, and he's starting to get closer to where he should be valued at.
Allen Robinson had one of the worst yards per target, and I think it has a lot to do with the quarterback play. They could see, if not an uptick in quarterback play,
He's a target
there's
hog.
going to be
He is.
competition.
He's the
He's definitely
third.
target
He
hog.
was the third most targeted player last year, and only barely behind Julio. Only 3 targets behind Julio. You think Allen Robinson deserves as many targets as Julio? No way.
Absolutely
But
not.
look at the Bears. He's going to get that many targets again.
Yeah. Yeah, they have no wide receivers. Like, maybe this is finally Anthony Miller's year to
Anthony
break out.
Miller. I
Do
was
you
gonna
guys,
say
do
he's
you
got a
guys want to
chance.
know who I think is a good buy low on the Bears?
Who?
I'm going to give you Riley Ridley.
I knew
Currently
you were gonna
behind
say that.
Ted Ginn Jr. Ted Ginn Jr. played 5 games last year. Ted Ginn Jr. is 35 years old. I just don't see how Riley Ridley's not on the field this year.
Ted Ginn Jr. though does something that Anthony Miller, Riley Ridley, and Allen Robinson doesn't do, and he's a deep threat. He takes top off the defense.
You're
Even
right,
at 35.
But a 35-year-old deep threat? Listen, all I'm saying is I like Riley Ridley's route running. I think he has a chance. He's a second-year player. I'm excited to see what this guy does.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, like, are you guys gonna buy David Montgomery or Tariq Cohen? I think Tariq Cohen is a really good real life player. Not good for fantasy.
I wouldn't mind buying Tariq Cohen again for that piece. David Montgomery, I'm staying so far away from. It's
Yes,
disgusting.
I'm not a big fan.
He is such a plotter. He is like, I never saw what was special in him.
Yeah, he's like a poor man. He's like what people think Jordan Howard is, even though Jordan Howard's actually a good player.
Yeah, Montgomery is shifty though. I think he's a poor man's Clyde Edwards Airline is a good comp.
but without hands.
And without the offense that he's in, because obviously the Chiefs' offense is.
I think the Bears have some good players. I just don't think they have a very good offense in general.
I
Ready
don't
for
trust
this?
who's throwing him the ball.
Right, I was
Exactly.
gonna say, ready for this? Here's my hot take: Mitchell Trubisky is the buy low on the Bears. Everybody's so low on him. You could get him for quarterback like 40 price. You could,
Yeah, but
it probably
it's-
is more expensive almost to buy Nick Foles.
But it's
I
because
mean,
he's
it
bad.
probably is.
But look at the upside you're getting with Trubisky.
That's
What
true. He's
upside?
very young. He was drafted very high.
He was
He's
drafted
still
very
going
high,
to get a
yeah.
Trubisky
chance
was
this
traded
year.
in our league at one point with a first on top for Russell Wilson. Imagine if he has a reasonable year and bounces back.
That is
He's going to
true.
have value.
You know,
and he's
he
got
was quarterback
legs.
number 3 just 2 years ago.
Yeah, but that's when he was running a lot. Last year, he didn't really use his legs that often.
Listen,
Wait, hang on.
I'm with you.
We
I'm
gotta
totally out
check
on
that.
Trubisky.
Was he really QB3?
I don't think he was QB3. Somebody fact check
It might
Vasso.
not have been last year. It might have been 2
It was
years
2
ago.
years
But yeah,
ago. Last year he was QB like 27, I
no,
think.
2 years ago he was, or last year he was a fat dumpster.
Yeah, no.
My computer's is not loading, so
Here,
I
let-
need to
let-
check on that. I don't believe that Mitchell Trubisky was ever a
Let me-
quarterback.
let
Let me check Sleeper really quick.
But what I think is most interesting about Trubisky is his legs. He provides a running ability similar to Josh Allen. Josh Allen was a top 7 or top 8 quarterback last year in most leagues because of his ability to run. When you have that ability to run for 400-500 yards a season, even a little bit more than say an Aaron Rodgers type,
Yeah.
you really
Like an
give
Alex Smith
yourself
type.
a really good chance to finish inside of the top 12 just based on that.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off. Trubisky was quarterback 15 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
no, I was totally
He was
wrong.
not top 5.
Thank you.
Nope.
He did have 400 rushing yards, but
Exactly,
now that I'm
that's
looking
what
at it,
I'm
it's kind of interesting. He had only 20 less rushing attempts, but his yards per carry went down from 6.19 to 4.02.
I'm
So-
telling you,
Yeah,
he's
he had
an
6 yards per
interesting
carry
buy.
his
I don't
freshman
know
year,
what
too.
I would want to invest in him. I don't know, but it's something I would kick the tires on if in your league. And redraft, he's probably not interesting at all.
Yeah.
But Dynasty, maybe he's interesting in Superflex. I don't know. But Dynasty Superflex, I think he's a really interesting buy. Honestly.
Listen, I think
would not
Cole
buy more
Kmet
QB.
is another great buy on the Bears. I see this guy becoming the tight end on this team.
The
probably
Bears do not have a
this year.
good track history though with tight ends.
That's true, but I mean, what are you going to invest in this guy? Probably a third-round
Probably,
pick
yeah.
in your rookie league, and
You're a big
he's
fan
one
of buying those tight ends late in drafts. I
and
think
those
I
tight
really
end
enjoy
lates
tight
in
ends,
draft,
too.
they always seem to pay off for me, and I think Cole Kmet's a good third-round pick this year.
I think he's solid. I just was not very impressed by the tight end class this year.
Yeah, neither was I, other than
He was like
Dalton Keene, who's really athletic on tape.
He's like the tallest fifth grader. That doesn't mean that he's tall. It means he's just taller than the rest of the people. Doesn't mean he's good. He's just better than the rest of the tight ends.
Exactly.
I think Cole Kmet's going to be a better real-life tight end because he's a solid blocker. He's kind of like a Cameron Brate type tight end in my mind.
But you're
Able to
talking
do it
low
all.
price on Cole Kmet. I want to talk about the opposite. He's a buy low. I want to flip the script here. We've covered the NFC North. I want to talk about an interesting topic. Sell lows, buy highs. Very contrary to what you would
Yes.
normally get in the dynasty community. Everyone wants to buy low on the player that's going to inflate in value and sell high on the player that's going to hit their decline. I want the opposite. I'll kick it off to you first, Drew. Who is your first? What do we want to do first? Sell
Let's
low?
do buy high first.
Buy high first?
Yeah,
All right.
start
do
out
it.
positive. I have Terry McLaurin.
Okay.
I feel like he has a lot of hype after last year, and I see it. I think the Redskins last year had around 3,000 passing yards. He had 950 of those yards roughly.
Wow.
He was an absolute animal. Like the thing that surprised me was I remember when he was getting drafted, everyone was surprised he went in like the mid third when he did, and he was seen as somebody who was going to excel on special teams and then be a deep threat. When he came into the league, he was an amazing route runner, had amazing hands. The thing that surprised me, since he was labeled a deep threat in college, was he was so good at contested catches. Just watching him play, he was their number one red zone threat, and he's a 6'1", 200-pound receiver.
He's very interesting in that regard. Here's my only problem, and it goes contrary to what I said earlier. That's why I'm really torn on Terry McLaurin. He's really interesting in my mind because I'm pretty big analytically based. I kind of weed out a lot of players based on that. He had no breakout age. He never broke out in college. And his dominator rating was only at his highest 17.7%.
Wouldn't you rather take his NFL production?
Yes, that's what I'm
though?
saying. That's
You
why
said that about Adam
I'm torn.
Thielen, so-
Yeah, I know. That's why I said I'm torn. But that's why I'm throwing it out the window, and I like Terry. I think
love
he's a
Terry.
good buy. I'm just not sure he's a buy high.
This is
that's
what I
where I'm
feel.
holding on him. I think he's a buy. I don't want to buy high on Terry.
His hype is really high right now. I'd be very surprised if you could buy him for one mid to late first. It's probably gonna be like a mid first and like some kind of small prospect on top. He's going as the wide receiver 24. I think one of my hot takes that he's gonna be a top 12 wide receiver this time next year.
I can easily see it. He only had like 23% of the team's target share this year.
But he
this
had
year he could
30%
easily
of the
have
yards.
35%.
Yeah.
I can
Look,
easily see him having 12.
Him and Antonio Gandy Golden are the future of the Redskins, or the future of the football team that's in Washington,
That's
D.C.
a hot take.
I've got a good buy high. I think Vasso's gonna like this one. Devontae Parker is my buy high.
Wow.
Oh, I like that.
I think that you can get a productive player for the next he just signed a new contract with Miami, a 4-year deal. Now, was that an extension? I might be wrong. I think it holds him in Miami for another 3 years, not 4 years.
I think you're right.
But either way, 3 years, and Tua is now there. Ryan Fitzpatrick is most likely going to be playing next year. For the first few games, I think Devontae Parker is going to be not great next year. So maybe the time to buy him isn't quite now. Maybe early on next year. Maybe he's going to float around wide receiver 20 or so.
Yeah.
25. But I see top 15 wide receiver potential from him, especially if Tua can develop. And he's 26 years old, I believe.
I think he's 20. I think he's gonna be 27. But yeah, I mean, he's going to his 6th year.
It's that is late, obviously, but he was young coming into the league, and he's raw. Obviously, way longer than you want
He
to
was
see a
definitely
player to
putting
break
it
out.
together last year more than he has.
But
in any of
he's
his
a
other
high
years.
point specialist, and everybody wants to say Ryan Fitzpatrick made him because he was just throwing up, and Devontae Parker was just going up and getting it. But he was running great routes. You see routes where he's dusting Gilmore, the defensive player of the year last year, turning around backwards.
Yeah.
I think he's really refined. And now Miami's on the upswing as a franchise. I think that their passing game is going to only improve. And I think all pass catchers, Mike Gesicki, Preston Williams, Devontae Parker, are all going to see a rise.
Yeah. To counter that, most of the production came in the second half last year.
Once Preston Williams got hurt.
Yeah, that is
So,
true.
That does suck a little bit. But
It does suck. And like you said, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a really good is a quarterback you want to throw into your wide receivers for fantasy. Because you don't want to own him because he's going to throw a lot of interceptions, but he has that gunslinger mentality, like Jameis Winston, where he's just going to throw it to receivers.
I think that's kind of like Tua, too.
Tua, though, spreads the ball around a lot.
He does. But
I like Devontae Parker. I held him for 3 years.
I'm not. Here's the thing. I'm not afraid of Tua spreading the ball around because I don't think Devontae Parker's a guy that's going to ever go out and demand 140 targets or 150 targets. I think he got something close to that this year.
Yeah, he had like 125.
But that's not what I'm expecting. Yeah, 100, 110, 115 targets. Get some wide receiver, 15-ish. I think that's. What are you going to get him for? You could get him in just about every league for a late first. Like, that's a decent buy, I think. I'm not going to do it in our leagues. I can't give Vasso the satisfaction of giving him a first-round pick for somebody picked up off of waivers. But if you need a wide receiver, I think he's a good one.
No, I do like Devontae Parker.
Do you guys have any sell lows?
I love my sell low. I thought it wasn't a hot take. I thought a lot of people were on this, but you guys seem to disagree. It's N'Keal Harry.
I do disagree with that.
He's
Yeah,
not
I
impressive.
disagree too.
He was not impressive. His college film was not impressive. He never won based on being more skilled than the other players. It always seemed to be jump balls, back shoulders, better positioning, stronger, run after the catch, screens. It was never, I'm the better football player than you. It was always, hey, I'm a good athlete.
Yeah.
And he's in a sketchy quarterback situation with Cam Newton on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
I think you see a rise in his value because we thought it was Jarrett Stidham throwing him the ball before. Now it's Cam Newton. That's a big improvement. But I'm going to sell low on him. I think if you could get any sort of even an early second for him, I'm dumping him, even though you probably paid a mid to early first for him last year.
Yeah.
If not higher.
This is how I feel about N'Keal. I do agree that in college it seemed like he was just relying on his athleticism, but I would rather have a wide receiver who is really athletic but doesn't necessarily know how to play yet, the one who knows how to play but isn't really athletic going to the NFL. So I think his athleticism is definitely on par with an NFL wide receiver, and he's in a really good system where they'll utilize his strengths and not ask him to do anything that he's not going to do.
You know, it's a good.
And he has good hands.
You know, it's a good comp to that is they came from the same school and went to similar situations. Is DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. DK Metcalf is the raw athlete, and AJ Brown's and they're both pretty successful.
AJ Brown
Maybe
is
I'm in the
extremely
minority.
But AJ Brown is definitely the better, more refined football player.
I'd love to have N'Keal on my
I was
team
thinking
for
of
a
more
second.
along guys like Riley Ridley and like Keyshawn Johnson.
Riley Ridley, I'm out on.
Yeah, I'm out on
I
both those
wanted to
guys because
comment more on that,
they're
but
people who
I
are
don't
just
think so.
skilled but aren't athletic enough to.
I mean,
be
Riley
guys.
Ridley's not even skilled.
Do we
Those
have
are
any
100
more buy
squads.
lows or sell
Sell lows. I
Sell
do have
lows.
one. I have OJ Howard, just because I just don't think he's that good. There's a lot of
That's
people
fair.
who
He
think
showed
that
his hand.
he's just not given the opportunity. But if two coaching staffs don't give you the opportunity, and they're bringing in other tight ends, they signed Cameron Braid in the middle of his rookie contract.
Oh yeah, OJ Howard.
Had some bad drops last year.
I'll counter it just by saying I think I'd prefer to hold him because sell low, you're not going to get much for him, and he was a first-round pick. That's what got me to invest in Hayden Hurst in the free agency because he was a first-round pick. He was on the waivers.
Hayden Hurst showed more in Baltimore last year.
Got to a different situation. So I'm just saying that situations can change. And isn't
I do
OJ Howard
agree.
on the last part of his contract?
I think
so,
he just
unless-
asked for a trade too.
He did ask for a trade. I think he still has the option if they pick up his fifth-year option. But, I mean, Hayden Hurst did show a decent amount of skill last year. But, I don't know. I don't think OJ Howard's all that good. I would be surprised if he goes somewhere and just becomes something.
All right, I got some buy or sell statements, okay? You guys tell me
Little
whether
rapid
you're
fire?
buying this or you're selling this.
Okay.
Hopkins, I know we talked about this a little bit pre-show, but Hopkins has demanded the lion's share of his targets on his team. He's had as many as 190 targets one year. Last year he had 150.
Deserves more.
He was fifth for targets, I think, in terms of wide receivers, 11th in total yards. Not extremely symmetrical for target to yard gain. He's going to Arizona. Arizona has Larry Fitzgerald, Kirk, who both had approximately 110 targets, followed with all the other players coming in for them, Hakeem Butler, Andy Isabella. Do we are you buying or selling that Hopkins has a worse year in Arizona than he did in Houston?
Well, I know we disagree on this, Drew. So, do you want to?
You can go first.
Okay. I was hoping to serve you after, but okay. So it's tough to compare. A better year than last year. I don't know. He might have a little bit of a worse year, but he's still He's still a player that you're playing with confidence easily as a top-end wide receiver one. I'm talking top 6 wide receiver. It's hard to decipher. There's Michael Thomas at the very top, and then there's like 4 receivers that you could have, and it's a toss-up any week who's going to be best, or 5. He's in that conversation. And I don't think him going to Arizona changes it all. Sure, the target share is going to be a little bit different. He's going to come down on targets, but anybody who, I'm like a low-key Texans fanboy because I'm a big Deshaun Watson and Hopkins fan. If you watch them that last season, they so misused DeAndre Hopkins. He was not running routes downfield hardly at all. It seemed like it was all underneath, out routes, not creative at all. I believe in Cliff Kingsbury's offense a lot more, and I think they're going to get him involved. And they don't have a stud like him on the team. You can say Larry Fitz all you want, but he's not DeAndre Hopkins in his prime. 8 years ago he was, but that's not him anymore. So he's going to get 140 plus targets. He's going to be top 7 wide receiver.
I mean, I don't think he's going to have a bad year per se. I think he'll still be a wide receiver 1.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely in for a good year.
I mean, last year he had 1,100 yards, 104 catches, 7 touchdowns, and a 70% catch rate. I can see him having another high catch rate because I think Cliff's going to just manufacture touches for him. But they spread the ball around so much. They have so many... I was making fun of Keyshawn Johnson, but he's like a solid receiver. They have Andy Isabella, who's a solid guy. He's young. They have Kenyon Drake, who they want to get touches for.
They have lot of guys.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald's still going to man touches. And Christian Kirk is a good player.
Oh,
and
without a doubt.
And Kyler Murray breaks on a lot of plays and runs. He's probably going to have around 100 rushing attempts.
Kyler Murray threw the ball 50 more times than Deshaun Watson did last year alone in his rookie season.
But if you look at
you got to think
Kyler's
the trend is
spread,
to lean more on Kyler Murray. So you would think that he's maybe gonna be throwing it around the same amount, if not a little bit more.
I think they played their best football when they were running it through Kenyon Drake.
Possibly. I just think Kyler Murray's going to spread the ball around a lot more.
They're
going to
play their best player football through DeAndre Hopkins.
All right, I got another one for you guys. Big offseason signing with Tom Brady this year. Last year, Godwin had 1,300 yards and a 71% catch rate. Mike Evans had a 57% catch rate and 1,150 yards. Who is going to have the better year? I think the easy answer is Godwin. What do you guys think?
The easy answer? Can you back that up, please?
Just based on the catch rate, just based on Tom Brady liking to throw it in the middle of the field as opposed to maybe down the field, and it just seems like Godwin is, more of an inside guy than an outside receiver.
I kind of agree. I think Mike Evans is basically guaranteed to have 1,000 yards and around 10 touchdowns.
So he's had 1,000 yards every year.
Every single year.
He's a machine.
Yeah, and then other than that 1 year, he's always around like 8 touchdowns at least. I just think that Chris Godwin might have 160 targets this year.
Oof.
He's just going to be peppered in the middle of the field all day by Tom Brady, I feel like.
Can either of you guys name me Tom Brady's last good deep threat that he's had?
Randy Moss.
Randy Moss.
That's also when Tom Brady was in his prime.
Okay, no. But that's embarrassing that you had to reach back 11 years.
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks, and he was good. How many yards did he have?
I think he had his best year, actually.
Okay, cool. So last time Tom Brady had a halfway decent deep threat, he made him look good, Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks can't even hold Mike Evans to lunch. Mike Evans crushes Brandon Cooks. Mike Evans is going to be arguably, obviously not as good as Randy Moss because of the career Randy Moss finished with, but Mike Evans' career trajectory is arguably going to be one of the best wide receivers Tom Brady's ever played with.
Yeah.
So he likes the underneath routes and those ones because who was catching those ones? Rob Gronkowski and Julian Edelman, 2 top-end pass catchers, and that's what they excelled at. When Brandon Cooks was on his team, like you said, he excelled. Brandon Cooks had over 1,000 yards, and Mike Evans is twice the player that Brandon Cooks is.
I love it. So you're taking Evans over...
I'm taking Evans over Godwin all day. What's Godwin had? One good season?
I think
and one okay one pretty good. Like, he had a good rookie season for a rookie, and then he had a great season.
I think you are highly underestimating Brandon Cooks because he does have 4,000-yard seasons.
I'm not. I'm saying that Brandon Cooks is good. But
We
Brandon
didn't
Cooks,
like the Brandon Cooks
Brandon
shade.
Cooks has, in his career, always been on the second shelves of receivers. Mike Evans has,
Yeah,
for his
that's
career,
true.
been on the first.
That's true. I don't know. I just think skill set wise, Mike Evans excels. He's a different deep threat than Brandon Cooks. He's not a speed guy. He's a contested catch guy, and Tom Brady doesn't usually throw too many contested catch balls. He's really smart with it.
It's really smart to throw it to Mike Evans.
He also has Gronk though to do that as well.
All right. Do you guys want to finish with some hills? Some
Well,
hills that we want to die on?
Hill to die on. Yeah, I think that's
You
good.
want to start at him?
Me, I got my hill to die on, and I'm proud of it, and I'm happy for it, and I think I can back it up pretty well. And tell me this before I come overtly out and say it. What would you tell me had you say a player got drafted as a replacement for a vacated role of over 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns? That role was vacated and this player was drafted to replace it.
Who would I tell you that is?
No, not who. Who would you tell me that is? I'm just
Justin
saying,
Jefferson.
Isn't that a hot player you want to buy?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, obviously.
That's Todd Gurley's decline out the door, dust or stat line in a shitty, excuse my language, I'm not sure if we're allowed to swear on here, crappy Rams offense. I'm expecting the Rams to bounce back. Cam Akers is going to suck up that role. Todd Gurley averaged 3.8 yards per carry that season, his lowest since the Jeff Fisher era.
Oh, God
Any
bless Jeff
competent
Fisher.
back should be able to push for 4.4 yards per carry. I'm legitimately looking at Cam Akers to walk into 1,000-yard rushing season.
That is a hot take.
That is a very hot take. They don't have a good line, but I respect that. My hill is that Sammy Watkins demanded 100 targets this year. He showed how good he was in the playoffs and in week one. Didn't do
And
too
in
much
week
between
one.
week one and the playoffs. But if you extrapolate the playoffs to a full season, that's like 2,000 yards.
That's true.
He demanded 100 targets. If he catches 65 balls, I can see him putting up 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Okay, we should make our
Wow,
first,
we're gonna
we
lose
should make
all of
first,
our fans off that.
We should make our first third down punt bet right now, Drew. I'll bet you
Live on air.
live on air a fun bet. Let's do a fun bet. You have to wear the loser has to wear a woman's wig to Meijer to buy something, okay? And we'll bet on who has more yards. You get Sammy Watkins receiving yards. I get Cam Akers rushing yards.
I don't know if I can make that bet.
Oh, come on. That seems fair.
No,
All right.
don't make that bet.
No,
you don't want that.
I don't know.
Oh, that's weak. Come on.
I feel like
You're dying on
I
this
feel like
hill.
Cam Akers has a much better chance to have over 1,000 yards than Sammy Watkins.
All right, do you guys want to
Sammy
hear
Watkins
my
is 1,000.
Yeah,
my
let me
hot
hear
take
yours.
here? Chris Herndon, who, and let me tell you,
I like Chris
Sam
Herndon.
Darnold said they were ready to unleash him this year. Chris Herndon finishes as, I wanted to make it top 10. I'm going to say top 9 tight end this year. That's right, I'm getting gutsy. Chris Herndon finishes a top 9 tight end. He's been injured a lot,
I
but
think
he
got
has
a
looked
DUI
good.
too.
Oh, no. He got multiple DUIs. But he has looked good when he's been on the field. And I'm excited to see him play this year, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
I like Chris Herndon. I think that's a pretty bold move though.
Can I throw out one more just for fun?
Throw out one more.
Julio Jones is getting older. Matt Ryan is an incredible quarterback. I'm looking at Calvin Ridley to break the top 20 wide receivers. That's not really a hot take, but I think that's a good guy if you're looking to, gain a little value on a trade. I think that's a good guy for this season.
I don't think that's that much of a hot take because his ADP right now is like wide receiver 21.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Well,
I was looking
yeah.
at. Hey, you want to
Thank
know
you guys
what?
for tuning in.
No, what I was gonna say, what I think is my hot take, if we want to do hot takes, is that Jalen Reagor is the wide receiver one in this rookie
Ooh.
rookie
I don't
draft
see it.
For the future of this year.
for the future. The wide receiver one out of this rookie draft class.
I love Judy and I love Lamb. Love them. I'll take them right now.
I
Snatch
personally
them right
love
up.
Henry Ruggs.
Ruggs has high upside.
Drew, your opinions are trash.
I love Henry Ruggs. I think people think he's just a deep threat, and he's going to be so much more than just a deep
He's
threat.
not a deep threat. He's Watch his film. He's smooth, but he's the
extremely
guy
smooth.
that's going to be misused a little bit. I think he's going to be
John
used
Gruden's
as a distraction.
good
a little
offensive
bit.
mind.
He
Let
is.
us know what you guys think. Thanks for tuning in to the Third Down Punt Podcast. This is our first ever episode.
Hopefully not at last.
Yeah. We should be back.